Hello everyone, welcome back to my B&B Today spoiler channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. The Bold and the Beautiful is heading toward another explosive turn, and this time, the danger may hit much closer to home for Melissa Dillon. According to the latest B&B spoilers and speculation, Darcy Dillon could soon receive a terrifying phone call that sends her racing to Los Angeles. But why would Dillon's mother suddenly appear after spending so much time away from her daughter? 1. Possibility stands out above the rest: a devastating motorcycle accident involving Dillon and Will Spencer. If that happens, it could change everything for Will, Dillon, Electra Forrester, and both the Spencer and Forrester families. Will Spencer's dangerous ride. Will Spencer has been dealing with emotional chaos for weeks. His relationship with Electra Forrester has fallen apart, and the damage between them has become increasingly difficult to repair. Once the two young lovers appeared ready to build a future together. But secrets, family pressure, misunderstandings, and Will's increasingly reckless behavior eventually pushed them apart. Then Dillon entered the picture. When Dillon was struggling financially and had nowhere stable to live, Will and Electra offered her a place to stay. What began as an act of kindness gradually became something much more complicated. Dillon developed feelings for Will. At first, she tried to respect Electra and stay out of their relationship. But once Electra walked away, Dillon became Will's emotional support. Late-night conversations turned into romantic moments, and eventually their relationship crossed a line that could not easily be undone. Electra was devastated. Katie Logan Spencer, meanwhile, has never been completely comfortable with Dillon's growing closeness to her son. Katie has watched Will make questionable decisions before, and she knows how quickly a relationship can become dangerous when emotions are running high. That is why her concerns about Will's motorcycle may be more important than they initially appeared. Will loves the freedom of riding, but B&B has repeatedly reminded viewers that Katie does not like the risk. In a soap opera, those warnings are rarely meaningless, and now fans are wondering whether Will's motorcycle could become the center of a major tragedy. Dillon could become the passenger as Will and Dillon grow closer. It would not be surprising if Dillon eventually joined him on one of his rides. She wants to be close to Will. She wants to comfort him after his breakup with Electra, and after everything she has been through. Dillon may believe that she has finally found someone who understands her. But a romantic motorcycle ride could quickly turn into a nightmare. Imagine Will and Dillon riding together late at night, both distracted by everything happening in their personal lives. Will is still angry over Electra. Dillon is trying to convince herself that her relationship with Will can survive the hostility surrounding them. Then, suddenly, something goes wrong. Maybe the road is slick. Maybe Will takes a corner too quickly. Maybe another vehicle forces him to react, or perhaps his emotions simply cause him to make one reckless decision at exactly the wrong moment. The motorcycle crashes. Will is thrown from the bike. Dillon suffers the worst of the impact, and suddenly, the romance that had been causing so much controversy becomes a medical emergency. Dillon's past makes the accident even more powerful. If Dillon is seriously injured in a motorcycle crash, the story becomes even more emotional because she has already lived through a devastating automobile accident. Dillon was previously involved in the tragic incident that resulted in Luna Nozawa's death. That event changed her life. Although the death was ruled an accident, Dillon had to carry the emotional burden of what happened. She was forced to confront fear, guilt, and the consequences of being involved in a tragedy she never intended to cause. So, if Dillon survives another horrific accident, the psychological impact could be enormous. She may wake up in a hospital and immediately remember the last time she was surrounded by doctors and machines. She may wonder why this keeps happening to her, and she may question whether getting involved with Will was another mistake. For Will, the guilt could be just as devastating. If he was driving the motorcycle when Dillon was injured, he could blame himself for everything. He already has enough emotional baggage from his failed relationship with Electra and his conflicts with the Forrester family. Now he could be forced to confront something much more serious. He could have put Dylan's life in danger. The phone call that brings Darcy to Los Angeles Sand, that's where Darcy Dylan could enter the story. Imagine Darcy receiving an unexpected call. Her daughter's name appears on the screen, or perhaps the call comes from a hospital. The message is frighteningly simple. Dylan has been involved in an accident. She's been injured. She is in the hospital. Darcy doesn't need any more information. She immediately starts making arrangements to get to Los Angeles. That could explain why Kelly Sullivan's Darcy makes a sudden appearance in town. At first, viewers may believe Darcy is simply visiting her daughter, but the circumstances could be far more serious. Dylan has spent much of her time in Los Angeles trying to establish a new life. She has struggled financially, endured homelessness, worked hard to survive, and become connected to some of the most powerful families in the city, yet Darcy has remained largely outside that world. Now, a crisis could finally force her into it, and when she arrives, she may not be prepared for what she discovers. Darcy will want answers. The first person Darcy may want to speak with is her daughter, but if Dylan is unconscious or recovering from surgery, Darcy will have to get information from everyone around her. That means Will Spencer could find himself standing directly in front of the furious mother of the woman he loves. Darcy may ask the questions nobody else has been willing to ask. What happened? Who was driving? Was Will responsible? Was he drinking? Why? Was Dylan on the motorcycle? And perhaps most importantly, why was her daughter so deeply involved with Will Spencer in the first place? Now her son is injured, Dylan is hospitalized, and their relationship has become even more complicated. Katie could begin investigating Dylan's background more aggressively. She may wonder whether Dylan is really the innocent young woman she claims to be, or whether there are pieces of her past that she has deliberately kept hidden. The appearance of Darcy could make those questions even more important, because mothers often know things their children don't want anyone else to know. Darcy could reveal a side of Dylan that completely changes how the Spencer family sees her, but she could also surprise everyone by defending her daughter without hesitation. Will's guilt could change everything if Will survives the accident with relatively minor injuries while Dylan faces a long recovery. His entire attitude could change. The carefree motorcycle rides may suddenly seem meaningless. The arguments with Electra may no longer matter. The Spencer-Forrester feud may seem insignificant compared with Dylan's condition. Will could spend every day at the hospital. He could refuse to leave her side. And that devotion could convince Darcy that his feelings for Dylan are genuine, but it could also make things more complicated. Because if Dylan eventually wakes up and remembers what happened, she may not want Will's sympathy. She may blame him, or she may cling to him even more tightly. Either way, their relationship will never be the same. A new chapter for Dylan Darcy's arrival could ultimately represent more than a mother's desperate trip to see her injured daughter. It could mark the beginning of a new chapter for Dylan. Of course, the motorcycle crash remains speculation at this point. B&B could take the story in an entirely different direction. Darcy may have another reason for coming to Los Angeles. Dylan may face a different crisis. Or the motorcycle storyline could lead to an accident that affects someone else entirely. But the pieces are certainly in place for something dramatic. Will is riding a dangerous motorcycle. Katie has already expressed concern. Dylan is becoming increasingly close to him. Electra remains emotionally connected to the situation, and Darcy is reportedly preparing to enter the Los Angeles storyline. Put all those pieces together, and a major accident would make perfect soap opera sense. What happens next, the most important question, may not be whether Will and Dylan have an accident. It may be what happens after it. If Dylan is seriously injured, Will could be forced to grow up overnight. Electra could be forced to confront feelings she thought were gone. Katie could intensify her investigation. Darcy could demand answers from the entire Spencer family. and Dylan could finally reveal the secrets she has spent so long keeping buried. One motorcycle ride could therefore trigger consequences that last for months. What began as a complicated romance between Will and Dylan could become a battle between two families, while Darcy finds herself standing in the middle of it all. And if Darcy really does arrive in Los Angeles because her daughter has been hospitalized, don't expect her to quietly sit beside Dylan's bed. She will want answers, she will want justice, and she will want to know exactly what happened to her daughter. For now, fans will have to keep watching The Bold and the Beautiful to see whether these spoiler theories become reality, because in Los Angeles, one reckless decision can change everything, and if Will Spencer's motorcycle ride ends in disaster, the aftermath could send shockwaves through both the Spencer and Forrester families.